Wade Erickson, thanks for coming on the show. You're a serial entrepreneur. And when's the last time you had a job?
Last time I had a job. So I graduated back in 2000. This is how old I am. 2001 or 2.
Yeah, you're dating yourself here.
And
Be
I
careful.
did. So here's the thing. I've always wanted to be in business for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to have some corporate experience. And I actually had a company. I paid my way through college with the landscape company. I sold it, and that's how I paid my way through college debt-free. But I wanted some big corporate experience. And so Rubbermaid came to campus. Rubbermaid that sells like totes and stuff like that. It's a huge conglomerate company of all sorts of stuff. They came to campus and they were looking for reps to like manage their Walmart account. And I was in Hawaii. My wife and I graduated from BYU, Hawaii. They've got a campus out there. And they were looking for a rep out there. And so I interviewed, got the job. I wanted that corporate experience and worked that job for a couple of years. And actually it wasn't too bad, mainly because my boss was in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I was on Hawaii time.
Yeah.
And
it's always, sorry, didn't see that. Get to it tomorrow.
Our times, like our work times, overlapped about 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And so I just had to make sure I was by my phone for those 2 hours. And then when I knew he was off, I was surfing. Yeah. Like I was at the beach surfing or whatever. So because that was a great reason.
Yeah.
A great job, I mean. But I learned a valuable lesson in that job. And this is a lesson that I learned. And everybody's got their own journey and their own thing. But I remember one day, so I was part of what's called the Phoenix program. And the Phoenix program, they had like 300 up and coming college graduates that they were going to make the next generation of leadership for Rubbermaid. And they were like promising us the world and doing a career path for all of us. And, and it was great because it was like, hey, you're the next generation. You guys are going to be the executives of this company. Mm-hmm. We're starting you out in the Costco's, the Walmarts, and the Home Depots. You're going to learn the merchandising in the stores. You're going to sell to the store managers, the regional territory managers.
With the big accounts too. I mean, dealing with the Costco's and Walmarts.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? And that was really cool, actually. My account was Walmart in the state of Hawaii, so I island hopped throughout Hawaii and, got to really get to know the Walmart culture and how that business runs. Mm-hmm. So one day we got a call from our manager, and they said, hey, there's a mandatory phone call. Everyone that's part of this Phoenix program is going to be on it. You have to be on it. Okay, great. Get on the phone call. And there was some guy reading essentially a letter written by a lawyer saying, hey, sorry, but you're going to need a call as soon as this call's over from your direct manager, and you're going to learn one of 3 things. We're going to let you go. You're going to be transferred to another division, or you may get a raise, if you're one of the lucky ones. And they let 80% of that group go that day because they got pressure from Walmart to drop prices. And so they looked at this like, after they'd made all these promises and everything, we got to save costs. We got to drop prices. So this whole program, which is going to be our next leadership, we're dropping them.
Yeah.
So at that point I was like, okay, this is how corporate America works, like,
no control over.
Yeah, you're dispensable.
Over tomorrow.
You have no control over it. That's exactly right. I'd already known I wanted to be in business for myself because I feel like entrepreneurs just kind of have it. It's almost like it's in their DNA a little bit, mm-hmm. But anyway, it was a great experience. But I was one of the lucky ones that actually got a promotion that day. And even though they shut down the whole program, I got the promotion and went on and worked for him for a little bit longer. But then we had our first child in Hawaii. My wife wanted to be back in Utah with family. And so I ended up leaving that job shortly after. And we came back here and started some other things. So The question was what's
When's the
your
last
first job?
time you had a job?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I take that back. I got back. I was like, what am I going to do? I came here to Utah and I started selling cars for Nissan here in Utah, and quickly realized that selling cars was not my forte either.
Yeah.
Got into some real estate stuff and have been self-employed ever since then.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think something you said there really spoke to me, where I feel like most people don't have this experience exactly, but something good happens to you. You got promoted, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could have called that a win. Like, hey, I was identified as one of the top performers here. Like, they love me. I'm going to keep going in this program, if the program's still going at all. But like, I'm going to keep going with this company. I got promoted. I got a raise.
Yeah.
But then something bad happened to other people who were your peers, who you probably thought were also, hey, they're doing just as well, if not better than me.
Yeah.
And that probably rubbed you the wrong way. And something similar happened to me at my last company, where like, I actually got a promotion. I, was making a little bit more money, where other team members who I thought were doing just as well, if not more, if not better than me, they got no raises, no promotions, nothing. In fact, one of them was demoted, and I thought he was one of the best leaders of the company. And I thought, this place is not for me. Like if these people are not being recognized, even if I am, I don't want to be in this kind of place where like, he was one of the hardest working, most helpful people I'd ever seen, like this director of my team.
Yeah.
And it was tough for me to see that happen. We're like, hey, I thought he was one of the best ones here. And I feel like everybody except for maybe a couple people who had control over that decision agreed with that. That they would also have said the same thing about this guy. They're like, he was been at the company for 15 years, progressed through different roles, worked in different departments. Like, he knows the ins and outs of the business, and he's a great guy, super helpful. Like, here early, stays late, gets things done, like no questions about that, but then gets demoted.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of demoralizing. Most people don't get to see the flip side of like, hey, I was treated very well, but this other person wasn't, when I feel like they should have been. And I'm going to do something about that, for myself at least. Like,
yeah,
I think it's kind of unique.
I was looking at I was looking at, cause I left the company. I wasn't fired by the company. I was, I left them. And part of my decision was I was looking at my boss's job, and I thought, do I want to work hard and get his job, possibly get promoted to that job?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. And then I looked at my boss's job, and do I want his job?
Yeah. What about that one?
No, I don't want that either. And I kept going up the line to say, if I worked hard enough and I just kept climbing the corporate ladder, do I want any of those jobs? And the answer was no. So therefore it became very obvious to me that that was not my place to be.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there long term, and so anyway, that's why I ended up leaving, is because I saw all these jobs, and it honestly, none of them seemed very happy or fulfilled in their corporate jobs, and they were great jobs, but they didn't seem very happy and fulfilled. And I just didn't want that. And I've always wanted to kind of do my own thing. So
yeah, I think that's a great exercise, especially for young professionals to do. Like, you're at bottom of the totem pole here, but I mean, look up that pole and say, do I want to be on any of those other rungs on the ladder? And if the answer is no, then you might be climbing the wrong ladder here. You might be putting 100%. A lot of time and effort into something that you're not going to be happy with at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that being gainfully employed or having a job is bad in any way. I never want to come off that way. I don't think being an employee is better than being an entrepreneur. It's just, different strokes for different folks, right? Everybody has their thing, but I think you're 100% right. Doing what I did and just looking up the ladder and saying, is that where I want to be in 20 years? Do I want to have my boss's job? If you can't say for sure, like, yeah, that's where I want to go, you should probably start looking at other businesses.
Yeah. Even if that's as an employee, like, there's tons of jobs as an employee where like, oh, that would have been a better fit.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, going back to what you said of like, hey, didn't love that, sold cars, didn't love that. So I started my own thing. and then became an entrepreneur and have been ever since. I think, and this is I think it's especially true for entrepreneurs, but every business, every success has maybe the front man who gets a lot of the attention, and then those around them who also did a lot of the work, and the business wouldn't be, 10% as successful without these people. Kind of like Frodo and Sam, So you have a business where you're the Frodo, but then who are the Sams in your life where like, hey, I would not be what I am today. My businesses would not be what they are without these people. Who are those people, and what role have they played for you?
Yeah. Is that the question?
Yeah. Who are your Sams?
Yeah. Who are my Sams? You know who my Sam is? My wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So I'd graduated international business because I just love business, man. Like I love small business. I can't say I love like big corporate business and structure and stuff like that. I love small business. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun getting businesses started. One thing I am not good at, however, is the details of things. Like I do not like doing books.
Yeah.
My wife, she graduated in accounting. So she got an accounting degree.
That's perfect.
So it's perfect because I'm kind of the visionary. I'm the one that gets excited about things. I'm the one who can start moving the puzzle pieces, putting things together. And she just picks up after me as I go and makes sure the books are right and that we're on track and takes care of the details so I don't have to think about that stuff. 110%. She is my Frodo or my Sam. And she's done all the businesses that I've done in my life, except for one before we got married, of course. She has done all the books on it.
Yeah.
And more than just the books. That's an important thing to keep track of the numbers and the accounting and everything. But she's, like done secretarial positions for my businesses, answered phone calls and stuff like that. She's kind of the grease in the wheels that just kind of keeps all the little cogs in the machine running well so I can just plow forward on things. So,
yeah, dude, wives are such a hack. Like if you want to have a better
100%.
life, like get a wife.
Yeah. And if you're going to be entrepreneurial, get a wife that is like my wife.
Yeah. Especially if she's
got an accounting
books.
major and she gets business, she understands it, and she can just take care of the numbers. You know? All you got to do is sign the taxes at the end of the year, and you trust her. Hopefully, I trust mine. You just trust her and know everything's good, and it just makes life easier.
Yeah, it is such a hack to have a spouse who supports your ideas and then also contributes to the operation in some way. Even if it is just being the grease, I'm like, we need someone to do some secretary work of like, we could try and hire for this, but you're here and like you're doing all these tasks that you're just taking so many things off my plate. Like that is so underrated to have somebody who can do that and who is already bought into the vision too. Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, she knows how I work. I know how she works. We work, I've seen other husband-wife business teams that don't work so good with each other. For some reason, we just click. I just trust her to do that. I know that she's going to do what she needs to do. And I just let her drive in her own lane, right? I just let her go. And she lets me go. She doesn't judge me. She doesn't try to correct me. She just lets me go because she trusts me and what I do too. So anyway, it's the best.
She doesn't give you crap for coming over to strangers' garages and just talking to them?
No, doesn't give me crap. She doesn't give me crap for anything.
That's great. Well, I appreciate it. Tell her thank you from me.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
So I was doing some digging on LinkedIn about your background and some of your current businesses.
It's been a while since I updated LinkedIn.
And it did feel that way because I sent a connection request to you like 3 weeks ago and it's still not accepted.
Yeah, I think my buddy posted, I get LinkedIn emails. My buddy posted something the other day and I looked at that and I think that's the last time I've been on LinkedIn. Yeah. Like in years almost. So yeah, sorry about that.
I was not offended when it wasn't accepted. And I'm like, I think he just doesn't use LinkedIn. That's like until true. Recently, I wasn't on LinkedIn. I should
probably update it for anybody who's looking at stuff though.
Yeah, so I saw you're one of the owners of Easy Mobile Storage. So tell me about that idea. What is it? Why do you have that?
Yeah, so I've got a couple businesses that I'm running right now. Easy Mobile Storage is a portable storage company. So everybody, most people know what Pods is.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nationwide. It's actually an international company, and where they deliver storage containers to your house, help people move, different home projects, whatever. And so we are a locally owned and operated Pods, essentially. So we've got a delivery truck. We've got 100 pods right now. We're growing it constantly. We've got more in shipment right now. So yeah, our number one customer is restoration companies.
Mm.
So, when there's a flood or a fire or
Yeah.
mold, they got to get everything, all the personal stuff out. And instead of renting a moving truck and going and getting a storage unit, it's easier just to bring the storage right to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our number one customer. And then we help people move locally here too, drop the pot off, they fill it up, we move it somewhere else, so that's what it is. Simple business, very expensive to get into, but it's a great business.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people see something like, oh, all I need is a truck and a crate and I can start this same thing. But there's always more to it than that.
Well, it's a business where you don't really make a lot of money until you're really in the hundreds of boxes. I mean, it's not like you can do 10 boxes and have a $150,000 truck and a $50,000 forklift to move those boxes on and off the truck and make money with 10 boxes. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's some serious upfront investment to get into the business. But, once you have it all and it's in place and you can start scaling, it's a good business.
Yeah. So what makes you different from Pods, the company? Very similar operation, but how are you guys differentiating?
So the biggest thing is that we are a local company. So when people call, they know they're getting someone local. They're not calling a 1-800 number, talking to someone in the Philippines or India or a call center in New York,
Yeah.
They're talking to someone right here that understands the area, that gets a personalized attention. For moving, that's an incredibly stressful time in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to depend on the company that's moving these boxes.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you can call up the CEO of Pods if you have an issue with the Pods, but you can call up the CEO of Easy Mobile Storage if you have an issue, and you're going to get the problem taken care of. So I think that being locally owned, operated, people actually, I didn't realize how much people would appreciated that.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a movement towards that more, where companies are getting bigger and bigger and they just appreciate doing business with, keeping the money in the economy and working with people who work there. So,
yeah, I think there's been a bit of like an anti-capitalist or anti-major corporation movement lately. And I guess there's always, been that sentiment to some degree, but I think having like a local company, especially that you can go to and feel some connection with, especially if you stay in the area and like, oh, it went really well last time. Oh, and I really enjoyed Wade or his employee who came out and helped us with that and dropped off the pod. I'll just do that again. So you'd say like a higher level of convenience is.
Yeah. A higher level of convenience
local.
And security, and it's like 100% it's relationships. I think business, relationships in business are super important. And so, like the business owners that work with us, they know me personally and they can, I know them personally, I know their names. And so I think that goes a long way. With Pods, you're going to get a different person probably every time you call. And even though the service is different, the details of the service are very different. And personal, just being able to take care of problems if there is one, having someone know your name, that local attention I think goes a long way.
So how do you go about communicating that to your customers of like, hey, this is why we are different or better than Pods or the other competition?
I think so. One thing, when I realized that is important to people, we've leaned into that a little bit on our marketing, letting people know that we are local and we probably know your neighborhood. We've probably been in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
That I think that's kind of moved the ball for us and made a difference. And when we we knock on the businesses that we work with, like we've knocked on their doors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't just make a fancy website and hope people find us. I mean, we try to do that too, of course, but we want to create those relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's made a difference.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that because Wyatt said something similar in the first episode of the show, which is how I got connected to you. You know, a friend of Wyatt, and I'm a
great guy.
You know, I've known Wyatt for several years. Wyatt said something similar about like, yeah, relationships that's all of what business is. And there's some added layers of like, well, you have to do accounting and you have to do things for them and they pay you for that relationship. But really it is like, it's a relationship based thing. Like one of the, I don't remember her title, but like the account manager who he deals with one of the fleets that he services, like their fleets of trucks, he's going to her retirement party, you know, and this is just like a customer of his.
That's cool.
And I thought like, that is so cool. You know, that's not going to happen with someone from Pods. Yeah. They're not building that relationship. I'm sure Pods is a fine company, but they're not local. They don't have that same level of intimacy that you can with your customers.
I think too, like I've always been in kind of service-based businesses, which our Pods business is a service-based business. You know? And I think there's always room in local markets for somebody who's willing to just get out there and hustle and create those relationships. Mm-hmm. I think people are a little bit hungry for it because, you know, we do a lot of business with companies like Google and Facebook and whatever, name the big company that's online. Like we spend a lot of money and do a lot of businesses with these companies. Most of them don't even have a 1-800 number to call anymore. Try calling your bank. You're going to go through 16 different, you know, functions or whatever to finally get to someone who you can actually talk to. And they're probably going to have such a, you know, high accent, you can't hear half what they say anyway. So I think people in business you can differentiate yourself by offering that local touch. Yeah.
It's almost like being small is a differentiator. Like
it is.
If you try to get a hold of, you know, you said bank, and I'm like, yeah, I've worked at Morgan Stanley, this massive corporation, international. You want to get a phone number to talk to somebody? Like there's hundreds of phone numbers for Morgan Stanley. And each one of those phone numbers has a decision, a little phone tree that you have to go through to get to the right department. Yeah. Is that going to happen for you on the first time? Probably not. But if you want to get a hold of you, that's one phone number.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're not going to get Pods knocking on somebody's door saying, hey, we'd love your business and we're right down the street from you. You know, like we're here, we get you. You can call me directly if you have problems. I guess the downside of that is it could be like, okay, well, how do you scale? You know, if everybody has your cell phone number and I've learned some hard lessons that way. The first business I gave out, like I gave my cell phone to everybody. Now I have a business line that's directly to me, but it's not my cell phone.
Right.
Right. And so I've kind of learned some lessons there where you do have to have some separation between your personal life and the business. Otherwise you never have any time to yourself.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. I think if somebody wants to start a local business, like if you're willing to get out there and hustle, and I think there's always room for an operator that's willing to get out there and hustle and answer the phone and create those relationships.
Yeah. I mean, hot take
even if it's a crowded market.
Yeah. I think even in a crowded market, like you need to do the thing that doesn't scale. Like, especially if you're starting out. Like, yeah. Scaling is great. But if you're at 0 trying to get to 1, scaling doesn't mean anything for you.
No.
Like you just have to get to 1, not to 1,000. Like figure out scaling later. You know, you don't have to build all these systems and purchase all this software and equipment and like, oh, that way it's easier to scale once I have 1,000 customers. Like, well, dude, you have 0. So like just hustle and get the 1 and then figure all that scaling stuff out later.
Yeah. The systems come with time, but you have to really have the customer base to create the systems. And sometimes it takes money to create systems like software and stuff like that.
Sure.
And these software packages can be quite expensive. So you're right. The first thing is just go get customers. And if that means that everybody has your cell phone to begin with, who cares?
Yeah.
It's okay. Then you can move forward and start scaling and creating the systems and things like that.
Yeah. Your CRM, at first it's a notes app on your phone, and that's fine. Maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet after that. And then after that, you partner with HubSpot.
So it's so true, man. That's how I started all my businesses. Like,
you don't need HubSpot to get a first customer.
Yeah. And then when you get some capital going, I mean, now I'm to the point now where it's like, if I'm starting a business, I'm going to find whoever does the CRM for that industry, and I'm going to use it because they're incredible. They're powerful tools, and you should be using it. But man, it can be expensive too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think right now I'm spending $1,000 a month between both my businesses on just the CRM. But they charge credit cards.
Right.
They do your routing. They do all of your emails. They do everything.
Yeah.
So
they're there for a reason.
But that doesn't mean you have to start with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not there yet. It's notes app and Excel spreadsheet at first. And
that's it.
You're the one who manually types in the credit card number over the phone or whatever you got to do before you're partnering with anybody, But that does bring me to...
I love you bring that up, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like, I got to have a ton of money to start a business. And sometimes businesses do take more money than others. And I got to do all this research, and I got to do this. And, and it becomes analysis paralysis. And then they analyze it for so long that they end up losing interest in it, or the opportunity just passes them by.
Yeah.
And they never start it. The most important thing, I think, in entrepreneurship is, if you have the idea, get your feet wet. Just go. Just go. The best way to test a business is to go get customers and do it.
Yeah.
And then you can grow and get everything perfect as you move forward. But don't try to start a business and be perfect from the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we were talking, off camera about the timing of me starting this podcast, of like, hey, it would be nice to have an indoor studio where you can't hear the cars that are right outside my garage door. Like, that'd be great. But then I would be delaying starting, and I wouldn't be having these conversations already, and I'd be delaying learning all the lessons I need to actually turn something into a,
and I love
a working
this,
podcast.
Man. This is cool. Like with the motorcycles in the garage.
It's fun.
There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's on brand for anybody who knows me, and for anybody who doesn't. Got lots of bikes. It's a thing.
Yeah. Going right after.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you have your motorcycle license?
I don't know.
No.
You wouldn't want to put me on one of these. I'll
tell you what, that one's not
I'd
very
probably
fast.
do pop the clutch, do a pop wheelie, and like wreck it or something. These look expensive.
Don't worry. This one here, that one doesn't have enough power for you to do that with. So
all right.
It's safe to ride.
Yeah. That looks like the fun one too.
Well, as far as, learning all these lessons of like, well, hey, maybe I shouldn't have been giving my phone number out immediately, or maybe I do that for a little bit, and then as I scale, I solve that problem. Like, what are some of the things you didn't expect to be an issue or a hurdle for you with Easy Mobile Storage that now you're having to solve for?
Hurdles that now we're solving. Well, I'll tell you what now we're trying to solve for is tariff issues.
Oh yeah.
Like, we're right in the middle of that. With tariffs, and it's painful. We're trying to figure it out, and that's going to be a big problem for us moving forward. Either we're going to have to, bring our boxes out of different countries, or we're going to, find new manufacturing, or we're going to have to raise the prices, which is never an easy thing to do. And I think a lot of people are feeling the pinch anyway with inflation that's been happening. And so raising prices, I'm not sure that's a great option right now. Yeah. So that's something we're feeling through right now. It's a real life problem for us. Besides that, so we're, I think real estate's a problem for us too, where we're always trying to find, it takes land to
store
these boxes and stuff. And commercial real estate is at a premium along the Wasatch Front in Utah here. And we just need land to store them on. So it's hard to find that land because, the land that you can put these type of boxes on is commercial stuff. And Usually they're using it for building commercial buildings or things that they can rent out for a lot more. So there's some of the things that we're dealing with currently.
Yeah, and I'm sure just empty fields without any fencing or, no security or anything. Probably not ideal to leave people's belongings or company's property. So it limits where you can actually leave those pods, right?
It does, yeah. So we've got 2 yards right now. One is like high fence, barbed wire, secured.
Yeah.
And the other one, because we ran out of space there, it's not secured. So we don't store anyone's personal belongings on that yard. And our smaller yard that is secured is becoming full because we're growing. Like we're getting new boxes all the time. We're growing. So yeah, it's just one thing we got to figure out, and it's a lot of capital management with this business specifically, because in order to grow, you've got to buy boxes, and then you get to a certain size and you got to buy another forklift, and then you got to buy another truck. And so it's a business that you can't be short-minded with. It's kind of like a 5 to 10 year, run to actually make it a good business. But it's been fun. But I just love building businesses. So I don't mind, it's not like I've done this many times before. And I think if you have the vision, which, I feel like I do, then it's fine.
Yeah. I think it's new problems, new solutions, and that keeps it fun, right?
Yeah. And I say it's fun. It wasn't fun this morning when I had to get up at 5 a.m. and go move a box for somebody because my driver put it in front of somebody's garage and he didn't know his truck was in there and he couldn't get the truck out.
Oh,
so that's not fun. It's just, and my driver is like, I've already worked enough hours this week. I'm not going to go move that box, So guess who gets to do it?
Somebody's got to do it, right?
The owner's got to go do it. And that happens to be me.
And would pods have done that? Or would they have been like, hey, sorry, man, that was the contract.
That's a really good point.
It.
Pods would have been like, well, we can get to you next Wednesday sometime.
Yeah.
And here's the 6-hour window we can get here. Where
you
know,
said,
they
leave it at
were
your
able
house,
to call us up directly, and it was just a miscommunication issue more than anything else. Anyway, but we got it taken care of. So that's not fun, but you kind of learn in business that it's a lot of just problem solving and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. Okay, I made a mistake there. I've got to make that correction, because I don't want to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is fun about it, is the problem solving and, the constant pivoting you have to do in business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that reminds me of something recent. Like you brought up tariffs, and Apple, the software tech company, hardware, iPhone maker, everybody knows Apple. They import their phones from China.
Yep.
They were about to get some hefty tariffs placed on those before there was an exemption on phones, tablets, and laptops. So basically an exemption for Apple, which I'm sure Tim Cook really appreciated. But before that exemption was announced, Apple was like, what are we going to do? We already have these iPhones that are basically made. They're just sitting there ready to come to the States. They weren't scheduled to get on a boat until, whatever date that was. That would have been after the tariffs. So instead, they flew planes to China, which is the more expensive way to get stuff over the ocean, and said, fill the whole plane, just stack it with iPhones. So if you've ever had a brain teaser of like, how many iPhones would fit in a Boeing 737, they solved that for you. Like, they just stuffed the plane full of iPhones and just flew them back over the ocean because they thought we're about to have to pay, like, I don't know what the rate was, 30% tariffs or something on these iPhones. Like, can't do that.
And I think the tariffs have since gone away for them, right?
Yeah, there's an exemption now.
It's nice that Tim Cook could, give Trump $1 million inauguration party.
Right.
Unfortunately, Easy Mobile Storage couldn't do that and get the exemptions that Apple got.
You can't pay the initiation fee that Tim Cook can.
No. I mean, I tried to, but Trump wouldn't accept my money. You know?
Well, I'm sure he wanted your $1 million. That's what the offer was, right? You tried to get him $1 million.
Yeah, to get into his inauguration party, I just don't run in that crowd. So
yeah. So I thought it was kind of funny. Like, there was some backlash online of like, this is just Apple not trying to pay their taxes or not trying to pay their fair share. I'm like, no, this is being a creative, maybe not business owner, but everyone can own their aspect of the business. And I thought that was really impressive. Like, hey, sometimes a stupid solution of like, let's just fly a plane over there and stack these things by hand. Like, that's not automated. Somebody had to go in and do that.
Yeah.
Like, what are some creative solutions that you've seen either in Easy Mobile Storage or other ventures you've been involved with? How have you guys had to get creative to solve problems?
Good question. I don't know if I have a great answer to that without thinking about that for a minute. But I don't know, man. You've just gotta make things work in business. Like when you're leading a business, there's no just like pawn it off on somebody else. There's no getting around it. Like the buck has to stop with you if you own a business, So you just find solutions. And with the tariff thing, like we're trying to find the solution. And honestly, the solution might just be that we have to pay the tariff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just might be, but I think one big thing too is having the right connections in business. It's the network that's really important, and here's an example, like Wyatt, which is our common friend. Mm-hmm. He owns Quartz and Lug Nuts. And, I have a business. I have multiple businesses that have a bunch of big machinery and trucks. And those trucks need oil changed and they get flat tires and they have problems, right? Well, who am I going to call when something goes wrong with those trucks? Because I'm not a mechanic. So for example, the other day, my driver called us and he's like, Wade, I hit a curb with the box and we blew out two of the 4 tires. We jack them up on one end with these little dolly things. And we had a full day. It was like it was more than an 8-hour day of deliveries to do. Mm-hmm. I can't call those customers, especially when they're like moving.
Yeah. I mean, they already have a tight window. Hey,
sorry.
Too.
I know you closed today and you're trying to move into that house, but we can't get you your bed until, 3 days from now when we solve this problem. Like they need their stuff option that day.
Yeah.
And so who did I call? I called Wyatt, and as a business owner, you have to have people like that in your back pocket that you can rely on, that are going to show up, and solve a problem for you that you have. And he was my problem solver the other day when I got 2 flat tires and I couldn't do anything until those were fixed. Mm-hmm. And luckily he dropped everything, came running, and we were able to get the deliveries done that day. You know? I owned another company prior, which is called Utah Tree Works. And we did tree trimming, removal, stuff like that. And we had a lot of equipment, chippers, trucks, chainsaws, you name it, a lot of equipment. And we had stuff going down all the time, because you get big equipment, you just get stuff going down. Mm-hmm. And you had to have people to fix stuff, like I had mechanics that would come out, and you have to sift and sort through people to find the right ones that you can rely on. And that's what I did. I mean, I had a network of people that I could just call and they would come no matter when it was and help me get out of a bind,
Yeah.
So I think, being creative, I can't think of a great example of necessarily being creative, but I can tell you that you as a CEO, and I know this is, you're getting your MBA right now, and you've probably learned that the CEOs are the highest paid people in the United States as far as jobs go. Mm-hmm. Why is that? It's because they have a good network, most of them.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly, you can say whatever you want about CEO compensation, and there is a conversation to be had there, but they don't work more hours than the average worker. Mm-hmm. Their output as an individual contributor is also probably not higher than the average employee in their company, but their network that they've built is better than yours.
Yes.
And that's it. That's what they're paid for sometimes.
Because they can pick up a phone when there's a fire in the company. They can pick up a phone. They can call whoever to solve that problem quickly.
Yeah.
And as small businesses, it's really no different. You need to have a network that you can solve problems with.
Mm-hmm.
And people that trust you, people that like you, people that that you can trust and get things done with. So
Yeah.
I think whether you're an easy mobile storage like I am, or a tree business, or the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, like, who did he call when he needed to get 10 million iPhones over the ocean immediately?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He knew somebody.
Yeah.
He knew somebody that he could call and be like, "Get your Boeings fired up. We're going to China to pick up all these iPhones."
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more than being creative. I think that the network is kind of key.
Yeah. So the hack there is like, you don't have to be smarter. You don't have to work harder necessarily, and you should be working harder. But to solve these big problems, you need to know people who are better and smarter than you in that area. Like, that's how you solve these problems.
Yeah, in that area. Sure. 100%. Yeah. And then it's just, I think it's just moving puzzle pieces, like, okay, this employee needs to take care of this. This employee needs to take care of that. They're kind of puzzle pieces, you're moving around, making sure that the business is running smoothly. I've got these resources, and as far as dollars, I need to buy this equipment with it. I need, what this inventory, whatever it is. So you're directing it all.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna read a quote here.
Yeah.
So it's been said that all communication is sales, and that's kind of the quote. But then, with everything you say, you have an intention and something you want out of the interaction, whether that's just to be understood, or if it's the other party taking action on something. It's all just selling the other person on the outcome you're looking for. So everything is sales. Everything we say is sales. Do you agree with that?
Everything we say is sales. I guess if you put in a way, I agree with it, because I think sales is like making friendships. Is you're kind of selling yourself to other people in a way.
Right. You want something out of a friendship.
Yeah, but not even maybe you want friendship.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I guess you might be making a friend because you want to use them for something other than just a friendship, other than just being a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess in that way, maybe it is sales to a certain extent. So I guess in a way, that we're always selling ourselves. I think we should always be putting our best foot forward in everything we do, whether it's being on a podcast or whether it's we're in business or marriage or, in anything. I think we should put our best foot forward. I think we should always strive to do better, to be more. And if you call that sales, fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting what you just said. Like, we should always put our best foot forward, like kind of generic advice, right?
Totally.
But, something it reminded me of is that, like, this is a habit that I have that if I do this, I'm sure other people do. And generic advice is generic for a reason. Like, it broadly applies. Mm-hmm. I will maybe not do my hair, or maybe I won't plan on being social because I don't expect there to be an opportunity, or I don't expect there to be a reason for me to have my best foot forward. So maybe I'll go to class one night in sweats and I'll look unkempt and not really be social with other classmates. But, like, how many times have you been forced into a situation where you didn't expect there to be some sort of opportunity, where you realize, oh shoot, that guy is awesome, or oh wow, she is really smart at that thing.
Yeah.
I wish I would have presented myself a little bit better here as someone worth talking to in their eyes, and so, like, putting your best foot forward all the time. Generic run-of-the-mill advice, but it's there for a reason, because, like, there are so many opportunities out there that I didn't expect to be there, that we walk into a room and like, oh, I didn't know they were going to be here.
Right.
I would have brushed my teeth right before this. I would have done my hair today. I would have, done some sort of preparation, or like, I would have just in my mind made the switch of like, I'm going to be social tonight. Mm-hmm. Which for me, at least, is something that almost, it's not forced, but something I have to like acknowledge, like, oh, I'm going to be social. I'm going to turn it on a little bit and like be friendly with strangers.
Yeah.
Rather than just like sit on your phone or, not be engaged.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like if you don't put your best foot forward, if you don't strive to be the best version of you all the time, then number one, what are you doing? Like you're not going to progress as an individual and a person, and you are going to lose out on a ton of opportunities that could have come your way. So yeah, I just think that moving forward, always trying to be the best version of you, there becomes endless opportunities. People who are apathetic towards that in life, they wonder why they don't have opportunities, and they wonder why the doors are always closed. Well, maybe it's because you're just not putting yourself out there. Maybe it's because you're not striving to be, the best version of you without repeating it over and over, but
like
I just
close
think
the door
that's
to
so
yourself.
important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with all the businesses you've been involved in, and you've already said that businesses are relationships, which involves communication. And so that's just talking to people. So with that in mind, how do you read between the lines of what someone says versus what they actually want or what they actually mean in like a negotiation, maybe?
Yeah, good question. I look at action more than I hear words, because people tell you things all the time.
Yeah.
And then they don't do the things that they tell you they're going to do. And that's how I find the people I want to work with, like a Wyatt, going back to that example.
Yeah. This might just be an episode about how great Wyatt is.
Yeah, it is. Should we just do that? Just talk about Wyatt
We'll
more?
just make a switch.
But it's a great example because he shows up when he says he's going to show up, right? I'm thinking of another contractor the other day that I hired because my driver hit the top of with our box, he hit the top of a garage and like put a dent in the stucco.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so I called this guy up. He was a referral to me from somebody who does exteriors. I call him up and I'm like, hey, this is a problem. Here's the pictures of what's going on. Can you help me? Oh, yeah, I can help you with that for sure. It's not a problem at all. Okay, great. When do you want to come look at it? I'll be there tomorrow at 4:00. Okay, fantastic. I heard what he said. He told me tomorrow at 4:00.
That's an appointment now in my mind.
Yeah, it's an appointment. And then the next day, I didn't get anything back from him. I thought maybe I'd get like, hey, Wade, it's going to cost this much to fix,
Yeah.
And this is when we can do it. So after that, I followed up with him. Hey, did you get out there? Did you look at it? No answer. I did a second follow-up. Did you get out there? Did you look at it? Oh, yeah. I got busy. I couldn't show up to it, but I'll go out today. He ended up going out, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. I can do the job. We agreed on a price. I can do the job this such and such day. Well, the same thing happened over and over, right? Where it's like, did he do it when he said he was going to do it? No, he didn't. He didn't. He took a week before he actually got to it. So the lesson to learn here is that actions speak way louder than words.
Yeah.
Because people will tell you that they're going to do things all the time, then they just don't do it. And I like working with people, and I choose to work with people who actually follow through on what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, in my mind,
that I can depend on.
Yeah, I think the actions speak louder than words is something I've definitely come to live by in my career, like working in product management. If sometimes customers will ask for a feature, like on a website or something.
Yeah.
And we could have our developers build that for them, but is it something that they will actually pay for? Because people will say they want something or they'll do something, but then the money doesn't follow. And so it's like, well, there's really no action there.
Yeah.
So it just kind of reminded me of that, but
yeah, it's I think it's so important in life. And by the way, it's a good lesson to learn as far as, if someone's listening to this and like, I want to be in business for myself. If you want a lot of business, especially in the service business, just do what you say you're going to do, and you'll never have a lack of business. If you answer the phone, you communicate well, and you do what you say you're going to do, then people they will seek you out, and you'll never have a lack of business.
Yeah.
Because most people, like if you work with most people in the service industry, whether it's construction or pods, or it doesn't matter. If it's in the service industry, most people do not say what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad thing that they don't. I would much rather have someone tell me they're just not going to do it or not interested in doing it.
Just
so
make
that
it
I'm
clear.
not wasting my time. You know, like the stucco guy. He eventually got it done. Eventually. But that put me in a bad position because, you know, I talked to the homeowner and I'm responsible for fixing this problem.
Right.
And I say, yeah, so my contractor says you can come out and do it this day. But he didn't do it that day. So now I have egg on my face, you know, or like, sorry, they didn't come out. You know, so it makes me look bad. I only want to work with people who say they're going to do what they're going to do, who do what they say they're going to do. It makes life so much easier, you know? And again, if you want a lot of business, just live by your word and you'll be fine. You'll have all the business you want.
Yeah, I think in entrepreneurship and in a career, like if you can just be the person who makes someone else look good, that's gonna turn out well for you at some point. Like that's gonna go great.
For sure. Yeah.
So poor stucco guy. Wish somebody would have taught him that.
I know. And I'll never use him again, right? He did a good job in the end, honestly. Like it looks good.
High quality of work.
Yeah, it's good quality work, but I'll never use him again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to use somebody next time that I can trust and I know is going to show up and do the job when they say they're going to.
Yeah. So I think it leads great into the next question I had for you about partnerships, where I think it's especially true in entrepreneurship where you have to rely on other people. Like partnerships are what makes business work. When you don't have the skills, the time, expertise, whatever, like how have partnerships played out well for you? Like what role have they played in your career?
Yeah, good. Like, so you got all the partnerships, like the people you rely on, like we've already talked about, you know, I mean, those are literally their kind of partnerships. Then you've got partnerships like in my easy mobile storage business, I've got my brother is my partner on that business. And he's a full-time firefighter and does this as well with me when he's not fighting fires and driving
saving
ambulances.
lives.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I love him as a partner because number one, I can trust him 100%. Right. I think that's the most important thing is you got to be able to trust your partner. And he has, when he's not fighting fires and saving lives, he has the time that I might not have to do the things that I can't do. So I think in any partnership, and I've done a few partnerships, and I have friends that have had very successful partnerships in business as well. But I think we've all heard the stories of the partnerships gone bad, you know, where things go wrong. I really haven't had that experience in my career with the few partners that I've had. And maybe I'm lucky or maybe I'm just good at choosing the right people. But I think it's trust. I think it's when you choose a partner, you've got to kind of put things out there. Like you've got to put expectations out there of like, hey, this is what I can do. This is what you're going to do. Make sure that there's, what there's no false expectations that are happening within that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and I'm seeing this in my job right now and at other places. It's really hard to hit a target that doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah.
Like how can you be held accountable for something that was never defined? I'm really, I enjoy shooting and, all these other hobbies, but like, how are you going to hit a target that's not there? If this need from the business is not defined, like you can list out, well, these are all the things that have to get done. And these are the ones I'm going to do. And these are the ones you're going to do. And there's something else left. Like, well, who's going to do that? There's probably also things that like didn't make it onto that list. And you realize, oh, well, no one's doing that either. And I can't be mad at you for not doing it because we didn't define that. Yeah. And you can't really be mad at me for not doing it. We can maybe just say we probably should have known and to define that function as well and make somebody do that. But when it comes to a partnership, like I think trust is probably the biggest thing there. and then probably just setting the expectation,
The right
like you said,
expectations.
of who's going to do what.
Well, and I think trust is something that comes over a period of time too. Like, obviously I've known my brother for a long time, so I know how he performs before I took him on as a partner in this business. And I knew that I could trust him from day one, and I know his character, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think where I've seen problems is where people take on partners that maybe it's a short-term relationship. On paper, it looked really good to have this partner. But there just wasn't a lot of history there. And so they got into the relationship or the partnership, and, it's very different from what they thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's partnership breakups, which can be really nasty.
And a lot of business, I think, is also like negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things? I'm sure you've been through lots of negotiations, whether it's like customer contracts, vendor contracts, or you name it. Over the years, I'm sure you've had them.
Yeah.
What are some things that if someone wants to be an entrepreneur or just get better at negotiating, like what's some advice you have to get better at negotiations?
Man, honestly, I don't know if I'm a great negotiator. I am no Donald Trump. Let's just put it that way.
You're not writing the art of the deal.
I'm not writing the art of the deal. Negotiations, I don't know. I always ask for discounts.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, one of my businesses is called Utah Tree Care Pros, and we are like tree doctors. We buy a lot of chemicals. And I just bought this company about 4 months ago. And so I know what they've been paying for chemicals in the past, because I've got all those receipts and the numbers on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting because as I'm buying these chemicals this year for this growing season, I'm telling, the previous owner what I'm getting them for. And he's like, "What? How did you get such a good deal on that?" I'm like, "Dude, I just asked for a discount. I mean, I'm buying $30,000 in these chemicals of this one thing. They probably expect to give a discount if you're buying big bulk stuff like that."
Yeah.
He just never asked. And the margins were there, so I guess he just didn't care. And so I'm pretty good at just asking, like, "Hey, is there wiggle room in this? Can you give me a discount?" And a lot of times I'll just ask, like, "Can you give me a 20% discount?" And
they go for that?
And they'll be like, well, they'll either say yes or no, but generally I'll get 10% if they can't give me 20%, and that, when you add that up, it becomes a lot of money. So I don't know. I guess that's one of my negotiations, is just asking. I try to live my life intentionally, and I try to do things intentionally. And I intentionally try to get discounts when I feel like I deserve one, or I feel like I deserve a certain whatever benefit. I just ask for it.
Yeah.
And I don't try to offend anyone or anything like that.
Right.
And honestly, I don't try to ask for things that I don't feel like I deserve either, because I understand businesses need to make money. And I understand the importance of relationships with those businesses. So I don't want to put a bad taste in their mouth by over, negotiating with them and trying to get every last penny out of a deal, or every last penny out of it, savings. So I look at it like that when I negotiate with people. That, how would I want to be negotiated with? How would I want to be treated on their end? But I'll ask for a discount too.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a perfect segue into the next thing I had for you. So do you know who Noah Kagan is?
I don't think so.
So he is the founder of a tech company called AppSumo.
Okay.
And also,
I've heard of AppSumo.
Okay. So he was also an early employee of Facebook.
Okay.
I think he was like employee number 8 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So early days of building these cool things. And now AppSumo also builds really cool things. He's also kind of a serial entrepreneur. And he recently wrote the book, Weekend. I should have written the name of the book down, but Millionaire Weekend or something like that.
Okay.
And in the book and on some podcasts, he's talked about this concept of the coffee discount. So the idea,
coffee
discount.
Okay.
So the idea is that, well, actually, I'll just show you. Since you haven't seen it, I'll let him explain it, and hopefully YouTube doesn't give me a copyright strike here. But I just got this video pulled up.
The coffee discount, it ties all into starting a business, which people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, it is the thing. Anytime you buy coffee, tea, anytime you go to a store, even a restaurant, you do it anywhere. You go up to the counter, you make your purchase, and you say, can I please have 10% off? And then they look at you really strange. And you say, well, Noah Kagan, $1 Million Weekend, I'm doing this course, I'm trying out this book. They said I should do it. They keep looking at you weird. They go, let me talk to my manager. Okay, fine, you get 10% off. Or they come back and say no, and you get your coffee and you move on. And then I always love asking people, like, what did you learn about yourself? And everyone's always like, I was scared, I had courage because I faced my fear, and I realized I can do more things, and it's not as scary as it actually seemed. And now you can start applying that, frankly, in everything, in your jobs for raises, with your dating, asking someone for a date, and especially in business, which is, hey, will you come on my show? Hey, will you be my customer? Hey, will you give me feedback? Hey, can I interview you? That's all this whole life is asking people things. And if you ask, guess what? You can get.
Perfect.
Coffee discount.
The coffee discount. I'm a big believer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on that? I feel like I know.
I just think that's absolutely true. I'm kind of like him. I'll go to stores too. I've never seen that. I'll go to stores too and just ask for a discount.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, like, even at big stores, it's amazing how they'll be like, yeah, actually, do you know what? We're actually running this ad that, gives a 10% discount. And I can scan the thing right here and give you the discount. Yeah, it's funny how you do get what you ask for.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think as far as like, I love what he said, like, what did you learn about yourself? Like someone who is not used to, you go to Starbucks, ask for a 10% discount. Like they're not running a promotion. They don't have to give you a discount. Like, what do you think about the idea of like learning about yourself through doing that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think, I guess for some people that might be really uncomfortable to ask for a discount. Why, I'm not totally sure. That makes them look cheap. I don't know. Whatever. I think I'm a big believer of getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, to get out of your comfort zone as much as possible. And so, if that's something that will get you out of your comfort zone, you should probably do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also a big believer of getting out of your comfort zone. Like, my wife hates this, but I'll tell cheesy jokes to strangers that, like, maybe I only think are funny. And, like, they kind of cringe. And she's like, oh, my gosh, please stop talking. Like, but I'm just having a good time.
You just find someone walking this dog down the street and be like, hey, got a joke for you, buddy.
Dude, one time we were in college walking up the hill at BYUI. Back from class to our car, and there was some guy also walking down, and he kind of looked at me, and I had no idea who this guy was, and I was like, dude, it's so good to see you. And he was like, good to see you too, man. I'm like, oh man, it's been so long. We were in Dr. So-and-so's class like 2 semesters ago. Man, how you been? He's like, oh, I wasn't in that class. I think you might. I'm like, no, dude. You were there. You said this thing.
Yeah.
And just like made up this whole story. And my wife was like, what are you? She was like so uncomfortable. But I thought it was really funny. And some people think you're so weird. I'm like, I will talk to strangers, and I will have these conversations that other people may feel are uncomfortable. And for him, he got this story of like, the weirdest thing happened to me today. And now he gets to tell that story. And for me, I get to repeat this on podcasts about how I will go out of my way to put myself in uncomfortable situations for the sake of learning how to be okay in an uncomfortable situation, even if I have to create the discomfort.
Well, and I so you bringing this around to entrepreneurship, it's always an uncomfortable situation being an entrepreneur and figuring stuff out. Like, it's not easy, going back to Wyatt again, it's not easy to ask somebody to screw up their whole morning to come help bail you out.
Yeah. I'm sure he had appointments already, or
I'm sure he did.
At least bookkeeping to do.
Yeah. But that's just one example. I think you have to ask for stuff as an entrepreneur to get things done. And sometimes those things are uncomfortable asks. And So, the coffee, what was that called?
The coffee discount.
The coffee discount. Yeah. I think it's great. It's important to ask for things that you need, not to take advantage of people, but it's important to ask just because that's how you're going to progress. That's how you're going to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do it alone.
If you don't know how to ask for things, especially things you need, like you will not be a successful entrepreneur. Like
100%. I agree with that completely.
Like I mean, luckily Wyatt introduced you to me, but there's other guests who I've filmed episodes with or hope to film episodes with, who I just reach out to. Like they have no obligation to come and talk to some stranger.
Yeah.
And not everyone responds, and that's totally fine. No hard feelings. I'm some weirdo on the internet. But you have to be willing to ask for things in order to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So lastly, I just want to ask, and Wyatt specifically told me to ask this. You spent how long living on a sailboat with your family?
So it was 18 months total.
Okay. And whose idea was that?
So, yeah. So I told you as we started that my wife and I, this could be a whole podcast,
right, yeah.
by the way. As you're going to get me all fired up because I love. Anyway, I could do a whole thing on this, but going back, so my wife and I went to Hawaii. We got our education. We finished up our bachelor's degree at BYU Hawaii. Then I worked for Rubbermaid, as I said, and we lived on the North Shore of Oahu. I met a family while we were living down there that took their teenage kids and sailed around the whole world. They did a full circumnavigation around the whole world on a sailboat. I'm a Utah kid. I don't even know anything about sailboats, but they told me these stories and I thought that is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like how cool is that they took their teenage kids on a sailboat around the world, visited all these exotic countries, caught giant tuna in the South Pacific as they were doing it. Like, or exposed to all these cultures. Awesome, right? And I thought when I have teenage kids, and this time our first son was being born, when I have teenage kids, I want to do that. That would be cool. And so it always kind of been a dream and a goal in the back of my mind with my wife. Then about 8 years ago, we had 4 kids, and that time was coming, when they were all going to be teenagers. And if we didn't take action, that time was going to come and it was going to go.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, we could focus on just that. Like, if you don't take action, that time is here and then it is gone. I've got a 2.5-year-old daughter, and she will never be 2.5 years old again. And you can say all you want about like being a young entrepreneur or young person in a career. Like, I love that I get to work from home and I see my daughter every day.
Yep.
So sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's an important point. So we, I sat my wife down. I said, "Hey, that sailing thing we've been talking about forever."
So she was on board. She was interested.
We'd been talking about it, right?
Yeah.
It's like it'd come up once a year. It was like,
oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But it was never actually like we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so I sat her down. I said, "I got something to tell you." She's like, "Oh no, did you cheat on me?" Like she was like thinking something like that.
Kind of vibe,
I got something to. I'm like, that sailing thing we've been talking about forever? I want to absolutely commit to it.
And she was like, "This is way worse than the cheating thing."
And then she was like, "Whew, I thought you were going to tell me something really bad." And so she's like, "Yeah, we should do it." So we thought, okay, fall of 2020 is when we need to leave because our oldest son is going to be 16 and he'll graduate from high school. He'll take off into the world, and that'll be our last time,
Yeah.
And our kids are all about 2 years apart, so they'd all been teenagers at that point, or almost teenagers. So we thought that's when it has to happen. That's when it has to happen. It's fall of 2020. And at the time, like, we didn't have the financial resources to do it. You think about buying a boat that's $500,000 and cruising around the world. It's not an inexpensive thing to do. But we we committed to it, man. And I got so like, it was a goal that was so, I was so committed to it. And it was so, I could taste it on my tongue. Like it was just, I'd think about it and I'd almost cry thinking about sailing around the world with my family. You know, it was just that real to me. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when you make goals like that you want so bad, how things just fall in place.
Yeah.
Like you've probably read or heard like the movie The Secret or the book The Secret or the Law of Attraction and that stuff. Like there's a lot of flu stuff with that, whatever. But in a lot of ways it's true because you get what you focus on in life.
Yeah.
You know, you focus on something enough in life, it's coming your way. If you're passionate about something and that's where you put all your energy, you're getting that thing, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was for us. We ended up, everything came to be like perfect. Like, you know, we got our boat the spring of 2020. We got it kitted out so we could all live on it as a family. I lived most of the year that summer with my oldest son down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We got it all. It wasn't a fixer-up boat, but we put everything on it to make it so the whole family could live on it. You know, we just added stuff.
Take some renovations to do that.
Yeah, we just, you know, like put a water maker on it so we could be off grid on some tropical island without needing to go get water the next day.
Yeah.
So you take salt water and you convert it to fresh water, you know, so just stuff like that. And then we left fall of 2020. We packed up a U-Haul with our SUV, drove from Utah to Fort Lauderdale, moved onto the boat, sold the SUV, and we went out to the Bahamas for 3 months, you know, just island skipping from one place to another, visiting cool little islands and exploring. And then we went down to the Dominican Republic, and then we went over to Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands and St. Martin, all down through the Eastern Caribbean, all the way around the north end of South America to Colombia, and then down through Central America, Panama, and then up around the Western Caribbean, like Roatan and Belize and Mexico. Then we looped back over to Florida.
Yeah.
And it was 18 months living on the boat with my 4 teenage kids. And it was the most incredible time of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a time that I knew I could never get back. And I don't regret sacrificing the things we did. I sold my business to do it because I wanted to be present with them for that period of time. And I had a great business, and it was a stupid financial thing to do. Not stupid, but it was, you know, if you were looking at just the numbers, it wouldn't have made sense.
Right. Yeah.
To sell the business because it was a good business. And my net worth would probably be a lot higher right now if I hadn't done it.
Maybe double or triple what it is now.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I don't work because I want big numbers in the bank account. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a business owner because it gives me the freedom to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. And this was top of the list at that point in time in my life.
And sometimes that means
me to do that.
You're up at 5 a.m. to go fix a customer
Sometimes,
problem.
Yeah.
And Wyatt said the same thing. You know, the day that we recorded, he was at a customer lot at 6 a.m., walking the lot, checking tires and everything. Yeah. And sometimes that's what that means. But other times it means, hey, I'm going to take a financial hit because I've done the things that I need to set myself up to spend a year and a half just with my family. And I'm sure, you know, small space for teenagers, things happen. But I'm sure it was probably the best experience you've ever had. I imagine.
It was incredibly hard. It was uncomfortable. Super adventurous. Mm-hmm. Being in new countries, new cultures, new places, you know, dealing with pirates and storms. And I mean, again, I could do 4 podcasts. I could talk about this stuff forever and get into the details and the stories of it. But super adventurous. But the whole reason I wanted to do this is because it was going to be hard and it was going to be uncomfortable. And I wanted my teenage kids to experience that. and I wanted to do it as a family. So I think our family has changed because of that. I think we created memories that we could have never created otherwise.
That no one else in the world, like what other families spend multiple years on a sailboat all around the Caribbean?
You might be surprised. There's actually quite a few families out there, and we didn't know this.
Percentage of the population,
very small.
You know.
Yeah, incredibly small amount of people would do it. And people said I was crazy. My parents thought I was crazy. My siblings thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Now I'm back and still alive. They're like, oh, that was a really cool experience.
Like, oh, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I wish I could. That's exactly what we get. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that. I wish my wife would do that with me. I wish my husband would do that with me. I just, bringing it back to business, I'm a business owner because I want to call the shots in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's better than anybody else, but that's what I want. Sometimes that means I'm going to work a lot harder than I would work if I had a job, and I'm going to do a lot of things that are more uncomfortable than if I had a job, Sometimes I wish I had a job and I didn't have to go through the pain of owning a business, to be honest.
Yeah. 5 o'clock comes and you're done.
When it comes down to it, I want to call the shots in life and I want to plow my own path in life, whether that path is crazy or not. I want to be responsible for the actions that I take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being a business owner allows you to do that. Nobody can fire me, right? But I can completely fail, but it's on my merit. I fail or succeed on my merit. And I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful, so that's ultimately why I'm in business for myself and I do the things that I do. And anyway, you get me on sailing. I could talk about that experience for a long time just because it was such a rich experience.
Yeah.
And I could segue that into goals and how powerful it is to set goals in life and business and to live intentionally in life. I think too many people in life, they're just not intentional about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They let life, take them by the tail and swing them around. And, then they grow old and they're like,
what was the point?
What the hell just happened to me? Like, why, what did I do with my life? My goal in life is to live life with zero regrets. Have I done that? No, but I want to live life with no regrets. And that sailing thing was one thing that I knew if that we would have just let that opportunity come and go, and that's the reason, honestly, we did it is because, and my wife is on board with me, is we did not want to look back on life and said, we should have done that.
Yeah.
We should have done it.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful. I think, just kind of wrapping it all up, like the importance of setting goals is so key. Like, even if it's a goal that maybe there's nothing that made you, there's no requirement for you to go and live on a sailboat. But you set a goal to do it anyway. And I think that time is just so incredible to have that time with your kids. And I think that'd be so fun to do that same thing. My wife and I talked about moving to Europe. We spent a few weeks in 6 different countries last summer in Europe.
Cool.
My sister and her family were stationed at a base in Germany. Her husband's in the army. So we hung out with them, saw all these castles, went to motorcycle races, saw all these palaces, cool things, And we think, it might be fun just to move to France or Switzerland for 3 months, and just do that for a summer. And I think that'd be so cool to do. And this is an even bigger thing to do, buy a sailboat, figure out how to sail around these islands.
It doesn't have to be sailing. I mean, that was our thing, know, like it can be anything. It can be whatever. I just think it's important to live life intentionally and to make the most out of life, whatever that looks like for you. Mm-hmm. If it looks like starting a business and doing it, then do it, because you don't want to get old and look back and be like, I just didn't have the balls to do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If it's living on a sailboat, go. If it's driving, if it's taking a tour van around Europe, then do it. But dude, life is so fleeting as I get older. You know, you hear that all the time, like life is so short.
Yeah.
When older people, I'm 47 years old now. I still feel like I'm young, but it is true. As you get older, you get perspective on life and you realize that it is fleeting and it is kind of short, and you better take advantage of the time that you have to do stuff.
Yeah.
And you better not delay it. You know, like most people say, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get a good 401k. I'm going to build up retirement, and then I'm going to go live my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then I'm going to
What
live.
a waste.
Well, the problem is, the reality is most people, when they get to that point, they're just kind of too comfortable. They're too tired, or they don't have the health
Mm-hmm.
to do it. They lose the motivation. You know, as you get older, you kind of lose motivation to do certain things, especially if they're physically demanding. And so I think it's like the Capra Diem thing, like seize the day, man.
Yeah.
Like if you can do it now, do it now.
Yeah. I mean, not to be
Because
too
you don't
grim.
know what tomorrow is going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say not to be too grim, but tomorrow is not guaranteed, especially depending on how you live your life and the choices that you make. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there are some higher risks with some of the activities that I do, and with even small things,
Yeah.
like just driving a car, just walking up and down stairs. Tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if you want to start a business, do it today. If you want to spend time with your family, do it today.
Yeah. Don't let fear get in the way.
Yeah.
Too many people they live by fear instead of living in faith and belief. Like if you want something, you got to go after it. You got to believe, you got to have faith in it.
Yeah.
Don't let the fear stop you from going and doing it. Like the motorcycles, you know, that's something you love. If you were fearful of doing it and you didn't do it, then, well, that's a big part of your life, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's important for you. But you could be like, I'm so scared I'm going to get in a wreck today. And so you never ride motorcycles, which has been something that's really enriched your life. You
Yeah.
know?
And surprisingly, it's not this way for most people, but it's actually made me money as well.
There you go.
So I don't recommend people get into bikes to like make money, but you know, not only has it made me much happier and I've had all these experiences, you know, rides that I've had with my wife and friends and exploring new places,
Mhm.
it has enriched my life and also helped my wallet somehow.
Good. It's awesome.
So it's been cool.
It's a good thing.
Well, Wade, this has been awesome. If someone wants to reach out to you, get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Well, I guess I'm on Facebook, Wade Erickson. There's another Wade Erickson that's like a doctor in Alaska.
So not that one.
And then, no, it's not. I'm not the doctor in Alaska. Erickson, Wade. That's how you spell the first name. There's a couple spellings of that as well. But they can contact me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And to be honest, I'm not like super, super active on social media, but I'm there and I check stuff, so you could reach me there. And yeah, I love connecting with cool people like you. So
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
reach out. Reach
Awesome.
out.
Well, Wade Erickson, everybody.
Thank you.